What's up, everybody? My name is Ryan Thomas, and welcome to the third and final part of the Thomas Take 200. Crazy. This has been a interesting ride, to say the least, and I think I just lost the connection there. Hopefully you guys were able to... So I think I did lose the connection there. Sorry about that, but... The 200th episode of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Thank you all for joining me. The final part of today's show. Wanted to talk about WWE Monday Night RAW, the show that I religiously watched from basically 5th grade to, 8th grade. That was like the prime of professional wrestling for me as a fan, when you still had the Attitude Era kind of coming to its tail end, but the Attitude Era back, realistically 1st grade to 7th grade, I should say, was when I really got into it and really started watching it. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Hollywood Hogan, back then when Hollywood Hogan was the villainous Hulk Hogan, the heel role that Hulk Hogan played in WCW and WWE, and I'm not really as into it as I once was. Obviously, I'm a lot older now. I know that it is entertainment. I respect the hell out of the guys and gals that do this to entertain the fans. I respect it, to say the least. I go to the events live when I'm in Buffalo, or when they are in Buffalo. I'm in Buffalo all the time. It's my hometown. But when Raw comes to Buffalo and when SmackDown comes to Buffalo, I always go because they're very fun to watch. How the matches kind of get build up. They build up and build up and build up for an exciting finish, and they're the best in the world at professional wrestling. I mean, the WWE is the NFL of professional wrestling. There's no doubt about it. But over the last 7 weeks, the entertainment business known as the WWE, but the show Monday Night Raw, has declined in ratings over the last 7 weeks in millions. To the point where it caught my attention because, I thought, I'm going to talk about this today on the show. And I can't believe that this isn't being talked about more. The fact that this was a big deal for a very long time. These arenas were sold out for quite a while. And the Raw rating that was released 2 weeks ago was the lowest recorded rating in the history, the second lowest recorded rating in the history of the show. And this was written by Corey Jacobs. Shout out to Corey Jacobs, WrestlingNews.com. So these guys, they have this wrestling site. They talk about wrestling, and I checked it out. Thought this is pretty cool. Second low, it says, headline is, Raw rating was the second lowest rated show in history, lower than almost every WCW Monday Night Nitro episode. So he writes, this week's episode of Monday Night Raw was the second lowest rated episode in their history. The show drew 2.6 million viewers, which comes out to a 1.76 rating. That's pretty scary, especially if you consider that it also includes holidays, shows during football season, and they were not up against the NBA playoffs. Ratings factor in cord cutting, so that is not an excuse for the low numbers. In fact, USA, the network in which Raw is on currently, is in more homes today than they were during the wrestling's boom period of the late 90s. Ratings are factored in based on the percentage of people that have USA Network. That doesn't mean that cord cutting doesn't hurt things, but it's minimal by about 1 or 2%. One thing is for sure, their social media numbers don't mean anything, because while they tout their Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube followers, it has not led to an increase with their core business. The only other episode of Raw that drew less was the show on 9/26/16, but that was up against the Hillary Clinton-Donald Trump debate that was carried on most major cable networks. Raw drew 2.4 million viewers on that night for a 1.74 rating. There was just one episode of WCW Monday Nitro that drew a lower number than last Monday's Raw. The December 11th, 2000 episode of Nitro drew a 1.75 rating. The ratings began to drop after the Superstar shakeup. Some may point to the NBA playoffs as an excuse, but Raw has to go up against the playoffs every year. The ratings have not gotten this low, and as I noted above, they didn't go up against the NBA Finals this week. There have been shows that have gone up against big college football games, election coverage, the World Series, and other major events, and the ratings were much higher than this past Monday's show. The one thing that Raw and SmackDown have going for them is that they are still among the top-rated shows on cable. It is still difficult to get a high-paying advertiser on wrestling shows. USA is willing to bite the bullet. So let's skip through this here. Let's see here. So pretty much he goes into the WWE network and how they've splurged into that a little bit. So sorry if I kind of rambled on there, but realistically, this is bad. And this Superstar shakeup, I don't really know much about it, so I am kind of in the dark here on this, but from what I've gathered, they brought in Samoa Joe to be a heel to Brock Lesnar, making Brock Lesnar the good guy, or vice versa. I really don't know the sublantics of this whole situation. But what I do know is that in my time of watching wrestling, from back in the day till now, and as I stated earlier, not only do I go to the events when they're in Buffalo, and I support it as a combat sports fan, as a combat entertainment fan, but I watch WrestleMania almost every year. Every year I still watch it. I go over to, shout out to Mike Costello's house, and we watch it every year. And his girlfriend's really into it, and he's really into it. But at the end of the night, every year, the last couple years especially, we've kind of looked around and wondered to ourselves, where the hell is this going? What are they doing with this? What's the next step in these storylines? And you have Roman Reigns, who they are jamming down the throats of the WWE fans. He's not quite everybody's cup of tea, that's for sure. You have Brock Lesnar, who does not look physically superior like he used to back in the day, and that's probably in large part due to the fact that he's not taking the HGH that he was back then. Just to throw that out there. You don't have Triple H in his prime anymore. You don't have the guys like Shawn Michaels. You don't have the guys like Eddie Guerrero. You don't have the guys like Chris Benoit. And I know what Chris Benoit did was a horrible, horrific tragedy. But I'm talking about the wrestling business side. Guys like that were very talented. Guys like Eddie Guerrero, guys like Chris Benoit, guys like Edge, who had to retire early due to a neck injury, guys like Daniel Bryan, who had to retire early due to concussion issues. So there have been so many wrestlers over the last couple years that have either died or have fallen off the face of the earth due to injuries. And the WWE has replaced them with guys like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. I'm a big fan of Dean Ambrose. I like his funky, herky-jerky wrestling style. But I'm not a big Seth Rollins fan. I don't think he comes off as authentic to me in terms of his persona. Also, Roman Reigns is probably one of the worst marks that WWE has ever tried to put out, or baby faces, or whatever you want to call them, whatever pro wrestling term that you want to throw out there for Roman Reigns. He's not the best one by any stretch of the imagination. He's not a very well-placed actor in terms of his acting capability, and his gimmick is not entertaining. What is it that he is even supposed to be? I honestly don't know. So I'm glad that these reports are coming out. I'm glad that it is out there for everyone to see that, yes, the WWE Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, the WWE in general, is not as nearly as good as it once was. This is a soft PG era that we have had to basically force ourselves to watch, being that we have watched the WWE for such a long time. It's a staple in this country, especially in the United States. Especially in the United States and in Canada, it's huge. It's been a part of our nation's growth as a sports entertainment watching country, and it is just not where it used to be by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm worried for Raw. I don't know. I obviously don't think it'll be canceled, but it's very concerning, as the writer stated on WrestlingNews.com. Corey Jacobs, the second lowest rated show in history, lower than almost every WCW Monday Nitro episode. Monday Nitro hasn't been on in 17 years. Was when it was canceled in 2000. That is very concerning. It's very concerning on that end of things. It's very concerning on the fact that they were not going up against the NBA playoffs. If they were, then that would obviously contribute to that. They weren't going up against any UFC events. They weren't going up against any NHL playoffs, I don't think. So, what is going on? Vince McMahon has got to fix it. He's got to bring in guys that are more basically accessible to fans, that want to be pillars for the company. I really don't think that these guys are. John Cena is one of them, but I don't see him sticking around much longer. Seth Rollins seems like a good guy, but his gimmick is just not my cup of tea, and neither is Roman Reigns. You have The Undertaker, he's now gone. You got a lot of guys that are falling off due to age and due to injury that they are just not replacing with the right pieces. So only time will tell, but that was the final take on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, the 200th episode of the Thomas Take. Thank you all so much for all your support. Tune in this week as I hit the studio again for my reaction to the latest topics in the wired world of sports. Take care, guys. Thank you for tuning in.